Hello and welcome to a very special Monday edition of Breakfast All Day. I am Christy. That is Matt. That is Alonso. So today is the first day that we can begin telling you about the Snyder Cut, the vaunted Snyder Cut, Zack Snyder's Justice League, his 4-hour plus behemoth extravaganza, the movie he always intended to make. And so it's out now. I'm sorry, it's out on Friday, but we can begin talking about it now. Thursday? Okay. Anyway, we can start talking about it today per the studio embargo. So here we are. Matt will describe to you what it's about. So we'll talk about it today, and then we'll go a little more in depth on Friday with some spoilers.
So this is a recut and kind of add-on footage from that got shot in the last year or so of the 2017 movie. We know that Zack Snyder had left during post-production because he had this awful tragedy where his daughter had died. And so he left and Joss Whedon took over. And the movie that was delivered was kind of a mess. And so there was a lot of talk at the time. Let's get the Snyder Cut. There are varying stories as to how much was actually shot at the time versus how much he went back and shot in this last year or so. What we ended up with is 4 hours. And the initial pitch was, it'll be a TV show, which I actually think might have been better off doing here. But there is no doubt about that. This is absolutely a Zack Snyder epic spectacle. It's pretty much the same story. There's these 3 mother boxes that kind of wake up after Superman has died, and Batman realizes, Bruce Wayne realizes that there's some attack coming. He's worried about it. He's trying to get a team together. He reaches out to Wonder Woman. He reaches out to Aquaman. She's in. Aquaman's not really in. And we start looking for, new people. And so he digs up the Flash and he digs up Cyborg. And similarly to the other two, Flash is in right off the bat and Cyborg is not. And it is, you get this whole journey about, are they going to start working together? The big bad is slightly different in this, in that, yes, it's still Steppenwolf, but he's more working for somebody rather than doing his own thing. He has upgraded armor in this one as well. And the story beats are a lot the same. Like, they have a big battle and the Justice League gets their asses handed to them. And then they realize, we better bring Superman back. And again, this is the same story. So it's not a spoiler to know that they bring Superman back. And then we go and try and get these 3 mother boxes not to join up and pull them apart. And there's a big set piece at the end. And look, like, in broad strokes, it is pretty much the same story, except that you get so much more of Cyborg's story. Mm-hmm. Real character growth there. You also get a little bit more from the Flash. Overall, I think that this is a much better movie. Now, that being said, some of Snyder's bad habits are in here, in that you get rock video. You know what it makes me think of? Like, there's parts in this where it's like, man, is this dude doing Pageant of the Masters down in like Laguna Beach, where everybody stands, like the paintings, like
the tableau.
Yeah, it's like, man, nobody wants a music video here. Nobody cares, right? But this movie, as opposed to the tacked on Whedon stuff, and I went back and watched that one yesterday, actually. And boy, that Whedon stuff really sticks out. But this one, what Snyder's done here is he's really finally taken on the DC characters and present them in this very operatic style as if they're gods. Like, this is the comic book version of the Ring cycle. You almost could use Wagner playing in here. Mm-hmm. It's very operatic. It's very over the top. And yes, there's some laughs here and there, but these are gods. Absolutely. We see much more of the original fight. And it's a different tone than Marvel does. And I think it actually kind of works. Like, yes, Snyder's got some of his bad habits here, but this is a hell of an improvement over the original.
I didn't go back and watch the original again. I did go back and read my review of it. And, at the time, I remember saying, like, there are parts of this that work. There are some ideas here that are really cool, but then there's all this other stuff that drives me up the wall. And I would say in this version, it's kind of the same thing, only more of both. So like there's more parts that I liked and that worked for me that I thought were effective, but then also more like, oh no, thank you. And this is very much comes down to a matter of taste. In my review, I said that Zack Snyder is the black licorice of filmmakers when it comes to superhero stuff. Like you either love it and don't know why everybody else isn't also going, or you just the thought of it, you just think, oh no, I don't want that. So I'm not a fan of his superhero stuff. I do like his Dawn of the Dead, and I'm curious to see what his sequel to that is going to be like. But there is stuff here that works. First and foremost, that we get more Cyborg. I think that's a really fascinating story arc that he didn't have the time to explore before. And, you know, when we look at other superhero team up movies, they generally operate with the benefit of like, okay, you've had all of these characters be introduced in their own movie. You go into this knowing who they are. So now we can dispense with that stuff and just get right to the action or right to the them intermixing or whatever, you know. But this one, you have like two entire major characters who we actually three, because the 2017 Justice League came out before the Aquaman movie. So we had three characters that we had never really addressed before in this version of the DC universe that were being introduced to us. And that's a lot to cram into 2 hours on top of 3 mother boxes and Superman Back to Life and all the other stuff that's happening in this movie. That said, 4 hours is a lot. And I mean, I eat 4-hour movies for breakfast, you know, but that's
a big breakfast.
Yeah, it is.
It's a buffet.
It's part of this complete breakfast, but you know, this movie doesn't feel like it's paced in a way that it's intended to be like this. And this movie is broken up into like 6 parts plus an epilogue. I would say, unless you are just like super diehard, yes, Zack Snyder, give me it all and put it in my eyes right now, use those chapter breaks as episodes. And, you know, maybe you're the kind of person that binges a couple at a time, or you know, or you just want to watch one and then give yourself a break and come back. The pauses would help. And I think the pauses would make each part a little more exciting, because by about the middle of hour 3, you're like, are we still here? Because it's not like it doesn't feel like it's paced to be a 4-hour movie. And it certainly doesn't feel like he's doing enough different stuff throughout to where you feel like you're seeing other stuff. That said, a lot of stuff that I liked. I think the big battle at the end, you know, in the nuclear reactor is actually really well done. I think there are some fun character bits along the way. I think like Affleck's Bruce Wayne has a lovely bits of banter with Diana, with Alfred the butler played by Jeremy Irons, with, you know, Gal Gadot being Diana's Wonder Woman. But yeah, it's just like I have a lot of the same problems that I have with the 2017 version, but certainly looking at this, you realize that the 2017 version is the horse built by committee that becomes a camel. This is, for better or worse, absolutely Zack Snyder's unfettered vision from start to finish.
So here's how we watched it. So Nick and I watched it. I don't know why it didn't occur to me ahead of time that it was rated R, since it is unfettered Zack Snyder. Now his second rated R movie, his first being Caddyshack.
Oh, Nick's. I thought you meant Zack Snyder's. Okay.
No, my son. So they said fucking at one point, and Nick's like, is this PG-13? I'm like, maybe not. So here's how we watched it. We watched the first hour, and then we went out to get frozen yogurt to celebrate his good report card. And then we watched the second hour, and then we went to swim practice. And then we came back and watched the last 2 hours. And in pieces, it still felt like a beatdown. It still felt like this numbing, repetitive, overpowering slog. Again, if he's your cup of tea, this is a trough of that tea. I like your black licorice analogy, Alonso. Here's mine. I think it's like the dress. Remember that thing on the internet a few years ago?
Is it blue or is it gold?
If you always see it white and gold, you're only going to see it white and gold. People can tell you it's blue and black, but you're not going to believe it. Or if you only see it blue and black, it's only blue and black. I think you're going to see Zack Snyder the way you see him, with whatever biases and whatever, you know, your tastes are, your prism through which you see him. If you love him, if you loved 300, you're going to be happy about this, or Sucker Punch, or whatever. I mean, if that's your style, I mean, I will give him this. I mean, I hate the idea of auteurism, but he's singular. He's an auteur. He's got a look. Nick goes to me at one point. He goes, is it in black and white? I'm like, no, it's just so desaturated and so like gritty. That's like his look, and he likes it to look gritty and grimy like that. Like
Although I felt like there's a lot of places in this that the color popped a lot more than previously.
It did here and there.
Here and there.
One of the flashbacks also, I think, when they're talking, when they the ancient times. So there are some moments in that where the color,
right, and you get much more of that than shows up in the theatrical release from 2017, and I think that was a good thing, because it, again, like, that's the moment in watching that I'm like, oh, he's made a movie about gods. And
if you want to watch that, that's very
right. No, don't get me wrong. Like, this to me actually feels closer to his 300, which I think is one of the strongest examples of what he goes for at a filmmaker. And, you know, again, like, if that's the type of stuff you like, if you're a Snyder fan, you're going to fucking love this. Absolutely. Right?
He did an interview with David Koff in the New York Times that ran over the weekend, talking about how they tried to Marvelize Justice League by bringing in Joss Whedon to make it jokey and quippy and light. And he's like, I give them all the credit in the world. That's their style. That's their lane. Joss Whedon's a great writer. I make different kinds of movies. So again, to his credit, he's made the movie he wanted to make. And if you were not a Zack Snyder fan walking into it, this is not going to make you one.
But and to be fair, sorry, real quick, just to be fair, like, his, you know, all the stuff with the Flash is real jokey, you know.
That's what I like the best.
Yeah, that worked for me. But like, I know that's become a shorthand for like Snyder people online, like, oh, Marvel with their dumb jokes. It's like, there's jokiness going on here. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, but let's not pretend it's not happening. Let's not pretend that this is all serious all the time, because it ain't.
Well, I think one of the differences too is that with the Flash, for instance, like, that's consistent with the way they present that character, and it works. And they've actually, like, the some of the jokes that were in, you know, the Whedon finished version were different and still felt like squished in. They still didn't feel as germane as to the rest of the movie. I think one of the differences, and I would argue a little bit that somebody like, you know, even a Richard Donner or Christopher Nolan or Zack Snyder will be better off with DC characters than Marvel characters, because Marvel characters are so often, like, they're very grounded. You know, a lot of the Marvel characters in the Marvel universe, just in the comics so long. And one of the things that helped them stand out back in the day in the 60s when they got really big was that they really absolutely had feet of clay, right? The Fantastic Four was as much about them arguing with each other as a dysfunctional family as doing superheroics. And
they lived in New York City and not
they lived in New York. But like, Superman, like, writing for Superman, it's like, okay, well, how do we take on God? Like, how do we, like, he might as well be Jesus, right? Like, he's unstoppable. And I think that Snyder's operatic style actually kind of serves this okay. And I'm much more appreciative of his swing for the fences, even overwrought spectacle here, than something that they tried to turn into Marvel movies, because I don't think that would have worked. Now, you could do that with maybe the Suicide Squad, right? And there's some other characters here and there, or Doom Patrol. But this one, like, you know, I mean, these are the big hitters. And
I agree with you in that, like, I may not like the results, but it is 100% what it is, and he is making a stab at this. But I will say this, though, like, the Marvel movies at least feel like they're set on a recognizable earth. Like, this movie is like, everything feels like it's a lava pit, even like downtown Metropolis half the time, you know. and what drives me crazy is so much of when he really gets into the sweep of things, like where suddenly it's 1,000 Amazons on horseback. Either the way that he chooses to create these effects, or the way these effects have been created, I don't know where the fault lies, but they suddenly become vapor. Like, you know, it's like there's a difference between a CG thing that feels tangible and heavy and you know, with gravity, and just these just sort of blobby ones.
There's definitely places in this that some of the CG, I'm like, that doesn't look finished.
And it's emotionally distancing. Like, I don't know what he's going for here besides just an assault, besides like a visual and auditory assault. Like, I don't know how he means to move us. Aside from some moments with the Flash, which are amusing, aside from the cyborg backstory, which is very sad, I don't know what he means to do to us besides just say, like, look at me, look what I can do. I'm going to overpower you. It's just going to be a barrage for 4 hours. And it's so self-serious and it's so ponderous and so joyless.
No, but I think it's, again, like I brought up the ring cycle. Like, I don't think you really, like, you don't come out of the ring cycle like, boy, I felt every emotion. Everybody was in there. It's like, it's.
Don't you think you feel something from the ring cycle, though? They mean to make you feel something. And here I think he's just pummeling us.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I think kind of you're both right. But the problem is that, like, yes, he has an agenda to sort of not do something light and jokey and frivolous. He wants it to be operatic. He wants it to be epic, and he wants it to be dark and thoughtful and all these things. But then there's nothing backing that up. It's just style. It is just the shadows and the murk and the black Superman costume and all that stuff. But it's like, it has all the depth of like a freshman philosophy student who just got his first beret and he's here to blow your mind, man.
Well, and then there's still like some big problems that like you come in, you're like the, either just the whys, like the whole terrorist attack on the people in the museum, right? That Wonder Woman comes and breaks up. Like, that's a really cool set piece. And seeing her in action is great, but it's like, why were these guys doing this? Like,
they're nihilists.
They're nihilists, Donnie, right?
Yes.
That's the thing I thought. And then like you get this whole extra big bet, like they really add to the battle scene from 6,000 years ago, right? And that's a pretty solid bit. Like, it really feels, similar to like you see in the Lord of the Rings, like, oh, okay, this is an epic sweep. And then again, they're like, so it makes the stakes of hiding the boxes even higher. And so, yeah, the Amazons lock it up in this temple that'll dump into the sea, and the Atlanteans put it in underwater on this big pedestal, and you can't get to it. And the humans just put it in a hole. Like, these guys dig like a 3-foot hole. They're like,
oh, please. The first time we see it in this movie, it is literally in the back of somebody's closet.
Underneath some stuff, but still.
Trapped in a closet.
So I want to talk about speed ramping for a second, because it is, of course, one of Zack Snyder's preferred tactics here. Yeah. And I would say that he actually, in exactly one sequence, uses that super ultra slow-mo in a way that is germane to character introduction and to pushing the story along. And that's the whole thing with the Flash with the big car crash. And when we first see him, because it's totally inventive. We are in the midst of it. It makes sense. It's tangible. It's not just like glossy and distant and out there. It's got some playful little details to it. I just love Ezra Miller in this role.
But it also feels reminiscent of the X-Men movies when we first meet Quicksilver, like that bit of like, I'm going really fast and everything is super slow.
Yeah, but I think that Ezra Miller's Flash is yes, they're doing similar things, but the way we see Quicksilver, like, he's so much goofier about it, whereas the Flash is kind of taken it seriously. And I also like the way it's used when they first wake Superman up and he's pissed and you see him running around, and then you get, Clark's eyes like following
side eye.
And that's actually kind of terrifying. Like,
no, that's a good moment.
That's actually really scary.
I like Superman's black suit, by the way. It's minimalist chic.
It's slimming.
They should have kept the mustache for it.
Not that he needs it. There was something I was going to say about interesting thing about the Flash, and I will say this is rare for a superhero movie. We don't find out why he can run fast. It's never mentioned.
Correct. It's not. And I like that. Right?
Yeah, no, that's
because
kind of novel.
In spite of the fact that, yes, we have to introduce these characters, it's more about introducing their place on the team and whether they're going to join the team. We don't
have to have an origin story.
Right. We don't get an origin for Aquaman. We don't get an origin for Wonder Woman. We don't get origin stories for any of these folks. Even Batman.
Again, but Wonder Woman already had her movie, and we all know Batman by heart, so.
And then the Flash is going to get a movie eventually, right?
Well, I'm sure
so,
that could come up. Who knows?
I'll say this, the way this movie leaves off with the idea of sequels and future storylines, I would have been interested in seeing a follow-up to this with the stuff that Snyder introduces.
There is, and we'll talk about this later in the week when we do our spoiler episode, at least one, two, I would say, even DC things where I was like, yes, please, more of that,
right?
And then other stuff where I was like, okay, if we have to, fine.
I would say it's very telling as far as our personalities and what our tastes tend to be, that Matt likes all the big operatic stuff. And I like things like Diana and Alfred talking about how to make tea.
No, I like that was a great scene.
Yeah,
you could and oh god, he's so good in that. Like you see, like he's just
Jeremy Irons is having the best time.
Huh?
Jeremy Irons is having the best time. This whole
and like he doesn't ever have to tell you, and it's just a measure of how Irons is such a good actor, even when he's in schlock, that you can tell that it's everything Alfred can do to keep from taking over the tea making. And he never has to tell you, right?
Yeah.
Right. So Zack Snyder can be funny. So there are some like the tiny little grace notes and the small interpersonal moments are the ones that I like here, and there just aren't enough of them because he's so much more focused on the spectacle.
Yeah, I mean, I guess where it falls apart for me is stuff like there's moments where it's like, well, we're going to keep the camera rolling and we're just going to extend this scene for another minute or 2 minutes. Or like,
I'll tell you, I would have forgiven a lot of the spectacle if it had just looked better.
Yeah.
Like it just all looks the same. It's just glossy, desaturated, knowing the same.
Yeah, exactly. Like in the scene we were talking about before, where there's all the sort of the speed ramping. Like for a couple of seconds, a character will look like they have been painted by Alex Ross, he's this. You've seen his stuff, Christy. You don't know his name. He does these very kind of photorealistic but heroic comics. He did the Kingdom Come series and stuff.
Right. He does these paintings and uses like photo references of actors and stuff.
And it'll look amazing for a couple of seconds, and then it'll just get subsumed in all of the other, just like the big black inky void of the Snyder vision. And it's like, so I think I would have gone with him to his sort of dark, staggering places if I could have just made heads or tails of him.
I thought it was dark too. I thought, like, is it my laptop? I plug my laptop into my TV to watch it. I'm like, is it my laptop? Like, no, it just looks like that.
Imagine this in 3D.
It's serious. It's dark and serious. Anyway, we should do numbers, but we'll talk. We'll go more in depth on Friday, and we'd love to hear what you guys think about it once you get a chance to watch it as well. I'm sure that fans of Zack Snyder will not be shy in sharing their opinions with us. So I still have so many good friends I've made from my 300 review back when there wasn't Twitter. And people had to email me personally to tell me that I'm a dumb bitch and to go back in the kitchen and make them a sandwich.
Oh, lovely.
Also, I wasn't satisfying my husband, apparently, and they wish birth defects on my unborn children. But I'm sure that by now the discourse has evolved.
Sure. Well, you didn't get death threats until Dark Knight Rises. So, these things kind of
again with Batman. People care about Batman.
Always the Batman.
I am saying 3.8. I did not enjoy this.
I said 5.5. I mean, I would be lying if I said there weren't parts that I thought were effective and that really worked, but you've got to get through a lot of chaff to get to them.
I'm going to say 6.5. Okay. I was kind of impressed with this. I will say I wasn't necessarily completely sober the whole time, but
how did you not fall asleep if you were buzzed? I would have if I were drunk.
Irish coffee.
It was loud.
I mean, you know what though? When we still went to movies in theaters, I would find that like if something were super like numbing and loud, like it would lull me to sleep. And I wake up, I'm like,
can
confirm.
It's still happening. Sitting next to you, can confirm.
Like, it's still happening. This fight scene is still going on. All right. Our numbers are 5.3. Tell us how you're feeling about things. If you are fans of his, if you are not, if you're going to watch it, if you couldn't possibly devote 4 hours of your life to this, whatever you're thinking, let us know, and we'll go more in depth on Friday.
Zack Snyder's Justice League drops this Thursday, March 18th on HBO Max. Thanks for watching, you guys. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on the social media at BeFastAllDay at Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And check out our Patreon page. If you like Marvel television, we'll be talking about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier starting on Friday, exclusively for our subscribers, along with other cool stuff as well. So check that out. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.